Hello, and today I'm welcoming Louise Stevenson, Operations Manager and Executive Assistant at Criton.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. To start with my first question, what inspired you to become a PA?
So previously, before my life as a PA, I was an events planner. So I used to travel the country, nowhere exotic, unfortunately, but travel the UK and Ireland, planning events for a big investment management company, which was lots of fun. Yeah, really, really interesting, really varied. And then 6 years ago, I had my daughter, and that position that I had before was unfortunately made redundant. So I just began to kind of have a rethink about, where I was in my career, what I wanted to do, um, and started to think, what are the skills that I have from my event planning time? What are the things that I enjoy the most out of that? But it's more of a, an office-based job without the traveling, without weekends and late nights and things. And it just seemed to me that the obvious one was being a personal assistant, that it had those elements of organization, of planning, of doing, that kind of strategy work and things that I just thought, yeah, I like that side of things. And you know yourself that with PA work, it's so varied that you could also be doing event planning and things like that, as part of the job. So yeah, that's how I ended up in it, and it's never looked back since then.
Oh, brilliant. How long have you been in the PA field now?
So it would be 5 years. Yeah, 5 years next month since my first role. And but that's also with another maternity leave, like snuck in there as well.
How did you obtain your current position?
So yeah, again, it's another tale of a baby and a redundancy with that one. So yeah, second baby, was working as a PA. My first PA role was with a really lovely family-owned jewellery business, and the jewellery company was sold as the owner retired. So just the way it worked with the merger of the company, the role that I was in was being made redundant. But I just happened to be pregnant with my second child at the time. So I went off and I had my second maternity leave. And then when my son was a year, it was just time to find something new. And obviously, by that time, with two children, I really wanted something that would be flexible for me. So I'd worked full time previously, and I thought, I want to work part time, and I want that to be as flexible as possible. But it was just, so hard to find that. It just, hopefully now it's a little bit better, but at that time, it just felt like it didn't exist. Part time jobs were either very kind of rigid and set days because they needed, it was either a job share, and they, each company's got its own ideas of what they need a job to do, and that's absolutely fine. But yeah, so it just came across Criton, and it was part-time PA to the CEO. Really flexible, choose your own hours, you can work from home when you want to, and just thought, yeah, this ticks all the boxes. It was a brand new role, so there hadn't been anyone in it before, and that was my experience with my previous company as well. So I just found it's quite scary in a way, because there's no kind of precedent that's been set before you, but you can then just come in and make it your own as well, and just see the lie of the land, and just say, right, you need to do this, you need to be doing that, we need to create these procedures. And I always really enjoy just kind of getting stuck into things like that. So yeah, it fitted really well, and luckily I clicked really well with my CEO. She's fantastic and great to work with. And my first interview with her was actually just a really informal chit chat. So by the time I came to do like a more formal presentation, it was so much more relaxed. We'd already kind of created that rapport. So yeah, and it's been, they've been fantastic to work with ever since then. Really lovely team, and yeah, just great to be part of, and continues to be, really flexible and adaptable, to current situations and things. We've, all moved to working from home. We did that, before the order came into place. So it's yeah, it's been good to be a part of.
Listening to your story is really inspirational as well, because a lot of people have struggled over the last year now that the pandemic's been going on with redundancy. So it's lovely to hear how you've overcome those. It was a good push to make you move on to a different role.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I've been in the event management role for 8 years. And, you know, it's one of these things, like, I don't know if I would have moved on if it hadn't been for redundancy. I might have just had my daughter and then, you know, stayed for a while. But yeah, it's kind of nice in a way. I always think, in my experience, each redundancy has kind of led to something like personally that's actually been better for me. So yeah, it's always scary at the time, and it's never nice knowing, you know, not knowing what's going to happen, and especially when it comes to, you know, financial and stuff. If you you know, knowing that you're going to be out of work and only maybe, you know, not having a lot in the bank necessarily to, you know, just to coast on for 6 months or something. So, but yeah, I've been fortunate in that, you know, my job searches, I have been able to pick something up. And I was fortunate both times that I had notice of the redundancies as well. So it wasn't like I was told, right, you're leaving today, go and pack your desk up. You know, I was you know, I had that notice, so it kind of gave me that like time to mentally get my head around it and prepare. So I know not always everyone's as fortunate to be in that position, but yeah, I definitely think there's a way that you can view things, and if you look at it as an opportunity, then, you know, that can definitely help your mindset.
Oh, that's some really lovely advice and really positive as well. So that leads me on to my next question. You mentioned a little bit about working from home. Do you usually work from home, or are you in the office?
So pre-pandemic, I did 1 day a week from home, and I did 3 days in the office, and then was off on the fifth day because I was still part-time at that point. Post-pandemic, obviously we're all from home all the time. So yeah, it was a little bit of an adjustment. My previously working from home, because it was just 1 day a week, I would just stick the laptop on the kitchen table and you know, just work like that. And obviously when you're going to do it properly all the time, it meant proper setup. So the whole the spare room was transformed where I am now. So yeah, it's now an office with a nice little proper desk and a monitor and a couch, and yeah, just trying to make the most of it.
And the challenge of homeschooling as well thrown in.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's homeschooling has stopped now because my daughter's gone back to our schools in Scotland have gone back, primary one to primary three, so she's back in now. But yeah, I've still got littler ones. So interruptions, I think, are more of the challenge. Everyone's just very used to me on calls now with a very boisterous little boy just kind of bursting in the background and jumping on the couch and running away again. So yeah, it just adds to the adds to the fun.
Yeah, and I'm sure everyone's very understanding. There's so many people in the same boat.
Exactly. Yeah, I think at first, I think we all felt a bit nervous about it, and we're very sort of embarrassed and like, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry if the kids burst in. But I've been on so many calls, and we've been on calls with our customers when, you know, kids just walk over and start asking for snacks and things. They just seem to be oblivious of what's going on their parents' screens. And, you know, yeah, I think we've all, a lot of people have been in the same boat. And if it's not a child, it's quite often a partner or a pet or someone's at the door, and, you know, everyone's just got to deal with these interruptions all the time now.
How has the pandemic changed your job?
So, because of what we do as a company, we create apps for hotels and service apartments to digitize their guest information. So instead of having a traditional guest book in your hotel room that you would flip through, you can have that all in an app instead. So we did an offer last year where we went out to hotels and said, you know, we'll do this app for you for free for 6 months. Because of the pandemic, obviously a lot of things are going contactless. You don't want a guest book that lots of people are touching. You want to reduce things like queues and reception where lots of people are gathering. So it took off really well, and we had lots of people take us up on the offer. But because we're a small business, we're a startup, we're still just getting used to we didn't have the infrastructure to deal with such a large. We had over 100 new customers, you know, within a month. So I stepped in and helped with account management. So helping deal with the customers that we were bringing on board, because we just had a team of 2 that did onboarding and app building. So yeah, they were just completely overwhelmed with so much to do. So a few of us from different teams all stepped in. So that was really interesting, because it was, you know, seeing a different side to the business, doing customer facing stuff, which I hadn't done for my retail days when I was at uni. So that was really nice, just getting that bit of feedback from the customers, and then just seeing, obviously the last article that I did for you guys was about starting to work for a technology company and not really knowing the ins and outs, whereas if you get stuck into things like that, it really helps your understanding of you know, how the product works, how it's put together, what those processes are. So that was a lot of fun. And I think the other aspect that's changed is obviously just the remote side of things. So, you know, we're not all in the office together now. We've always been a close team, obviously under 25 members of staff for the last couple of years. We did lots of nights out, lots of drinks. Obviously it's you know, quite a young crowd as well. So there was lots of like, you know, beers on a Friday, or, you know, it's always someone's birthday or someone's leaving. So there was, yeah, lots of socializing. And, you know, you go from that to then suddenly you're just sat in a, you know, a spare room by yourself. How do we keep that kind of team bond going, you know, throughout this? So there's been lots of coming up with like online games and activities, and at Christmas we did a murder mystery night, which was really, really funny, really good laugh. So yeah, it's just trying to keep that sort of sense of the team together when you're not physically together. And of course, the teams, people, the well-being as well. You know, people are under a lot of stress and pressure just now. You know, there's just a lot going on in everyone's lives, so it's just making sure that our team have the tools to deal with that and the resources. So we do a weekly update where I do like a weekly wellness advice. So pick just kind of different topics. Sometimes it's like, here's some breathing techniques for when you're feeling stressed. Here's the benefits behind plant, like having house plants, and you know, what house plants to get that are easy if you're new to it. So, you know, just random little things to say, you know, here's just little tips just to, you know, make life a little bit easier. So that was definitely things that didn't really factor into my role, you know, as much pre-pandemic. And it's obviously just things that the pandemic kind of brought to, you know, brought to the forefront of what you should be focusing on. So I think as PAs, we quite often end up as the they're not really sure who else would do that. So like, could you do it, please? So that's kind of, you know, where all that's come about. And it's been like, Louise, could you just kind of take on making sure everyone's okay? It's like, yeah, that's fine.
It's so important. I mean, well-being at the moment, just for everyone. It's been so long, and through the winter as well. Having that support, I know employees must really appreciate it.
Yeah, exactly.
So what has been your biggest challenge?
I would say, as we've touched on, yeah, the homeschooling. I'm lucky that I only had to do that this year, because she only actually started school in August. I think the biggest challenge of the whole time, for me personally, it's been moving to being completely home based rather than having a mixture of home and office. I'm a social person. I like to mix with others. I really kind of, you know, feed off that environment where people are, you know, sharing ideas. And, you know, even if everyone in the office was really busy and head down working, it's just nice to have that you know, that experience and just be there. And I think for me as a parent, I really valued those days where I would, you know, pop on my work clothes and I would go and get the bus, and I'd put my headphones in and I'd, you know, listen to music or a podcast, or I'd read a book. And then I would have those days in the office where I was, you know, I was Louise, I wasn't mum. And I did, you know, I really enjoyed that. And as I say, you know, there was nice social side of things as well that I'd like to get involved with when I could. And then I'd come home from those days, and then that's fine. Then I'm mum, and I'll be doing the snacks and changing nappies and doing the washing and all that kind of stuff. So it was nice to kind of differentiate a little bit, whereas the pandemic kind of just threw everything into one basket, and now you're doing all this, but you're working and you're trying to help with work stuff, but you've also got the children at home, and they'll still come to you and want things. And when they're 3 and 6 or 2 and 5, when the pandemic started, they don't understand that mummy's at work just now, because they're like, mummy's not at work, she's right there. So they'll be, you can't explain that. The older one a little bit more, but not the little one. So it's just that challenge of trying to be everything at once, and balance all that as well. And I am really lucky that my husband was actually furloughed, so he's been here the whole time, and he's helped with childcare. And I know that's been a challenge for parents who've both been working. But again, it's a challenge for him, because then he's doing this like battle where he's trying to keep the children away to let me get a bit of work done. And it just feels like everything's just a constant fight between like trying to keep them happy and trying to keep them out the spare room and trying to fill the days up. And so so all that's just that's probably been the biggest challenge. But it is looking brighter now. As I say, my eldest is at school, my youngest will be starting nursery soon. Hopefully, my husband's a chef, so fingers crossed he'll be back to work by the end of April. So life will start to slide back into normality. But at the same time, as much as there's been challenges, there has been parts of it that has been a blessing. Having my husband home all the time has been really nice. We're used to him working nights and weekends, so it's going to be a really strange adjustment for us to kind of go back to what we were before, doing like shift work, childcare, that sort of thing. So it's always nice to just kind of look at the plus side to things, and that's been our one for the pandemic, I think.
Yes, definitely. It's always good to look at the positives. And you own a home or you live with someone, but you just never see them. Whereas that is
Exactly.
one thing that we can take away from this experience. We get to spend time with our immediate family or who we live with. And then maybe more Zoom calls with people who live a bit further away, because you don't normally think of that.
Yeah, exactly. Like my friends we've started up a quiz night, which everyone has. But we are all in the position that we've all got young children. So over the past few years, our nights out and things have dropped, dramatically. But now we can meet once a week. We don't have to worry about babysitters. We just all hop on when the kids have gone to bed, and we have a quiz, we have a laugh, we have a few drinks, and it's really kind of helped connect with my friends in that way that is difficult when you've got young children, when you kind of lose that socializing aspect of it. So things like that, I think people have really found that it's not been a barrier to connection. It's actually helped in a way, help people realize what's actually important in their lives, and who's important.
Oh, lovely. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I think that's all my questions.
It's been lovely to be here with you and answer them.
Oh, thank you so much, Louise.
Thank you.